All right, let's start with cloud service models. Now that we have understood that we have four types of cloud, or basically three types of cloud: public, private, and community cloud. And these clouds primarily offers, or these cloud primarily enables us to host our workloads and applications so that we can make them available to the to our users, to our customers, to our partners, to our vendors. That's what we primarily do. Now, when it comes to the public cloud, what are different models which public cloud supports, or what are different models we can leverage in public cloud? So when we deploy our application in public cloud, what are the different options which are available to pick and choose from is what cloud service delivery models is all about. So these are the options which are available. Now, before you understand those options, let's understand how it all happens in a traditional on-premises data center. What that data center is comprises of, if you just try to create a building block of technology on which the data center is running, this is how we do it. So it starts with networking. In any data center you will see, it starts with networking. You will see a couple of cables, wires through which all the technology systems are connected. So you have networking, you have networking devices like switches, routers, hubs. Then you have some storage devices, storage, solutions from EMC, HP, storage disk. That's the storage devices are there. You have some physical servers which have CPU and RAM capability. And collectively, all of these networking, storage, and servers, with the help of virtualization, which binds all of these technologies together, we can create multiple virtual machines. Virtual machines means OS, operating system. So we can create virtual machines of Windows, Unix operating systems. Those virtual machines will have a middleware. Middleware basically means through which the virtual machines are up and running. They have a runtime. Runtime basically means either the virtual machine is running, it is in stopped state, or it is restarting. So runtime of the virtual machine. Then what do you keep on that virtual machine? You actually store data on the virtual machine, data that relates to your application, data which could be historical, which could be of some importance to you. And you're also running application on the top of that virtual machine. So that data could relate to the application, or that data could be object data as well. So this is a typical architecture from the technology stack point of view for a traditional on-premises data center. Is that understood to everyone?
Sure.
Okay. Now, when it comes to cloud, this is traditional all-premises data center. Let's see how cloud data centers are configured. So if you look carefully, cloud data centers are also similar to on-premises data centers in terms of the technology landscape, technology stack. The only difference is that the cloud technology landscape is most up to date. It runs with most up-to-date softwares and tooling and hardware infrastructure, and it has that infrastructure at a larger scale than on-premises data center. But overall, the technology stack remains the same. Now, the first delivery model or service model in cloud, in public cloud, is infrastructure as a service. What happens in infrastructure as a service? In infrastructure as a service, networking, storage, servers, and virtualization. Until this stack, vendor manages everything. So if it is Microsoft Azure public cloud, Microsoft Azure will ensure the management of virtualization, storage, servers, and networking. That's their management. And that's where I say that in cloud, vendor is responsible for the management and maintenance of the hardware, because until this stack, everything is hardware. Above this stack, it is software and application. So right, the moment you provision a virtual machine in cloud, if it is running Windows operating system or Linux operating system, it is your responsibility to ensure the availability of that virtual machine, the runtime of it, what you deploy on the virtual machine, the data that you store on the virtual machine, and the application that you host on the virtual machine. This is your responsibility as a customer. That's infrastructure as a service model that cloud offers. This is the most preferred service model which is being used by organizations across the globe. Because in this model, you still maintain the complete control on your application. You maintain the control on the operating system. You provision a virtual machine. You're responsible for the maintenance of that virtual machine. You're responsible for the monitoring, update, patches, everything you are responsible. And that virtual machine has a couple of data disks associated with it, storage associated to it. You're also responsible for the storage, that disk, which is attached to the virtual machine. The application that you have installed on the virtual machine is under your complete control. You can deploy the application the way you want it to. It could be an internal application, internal to the organization. It could be an external application, which is public facing, like the websites of a company. That's infrastructure as a service. Here to your right, you see the vendors who provide this service model or who supports this service model: Azure, Amazon, IBM, and Google. These are the vendors. There are many vendors. I'm just listing the top vendors. Then comes another model. Now the drawback of this model is when you are moving from on-premises to cloud, there could be an objective in mind. The objective is that IT is a support function for my business. My core product is different, which brings bread and butter. And I don't want to focus much on IT. I don't want to get into the hassle of hiring the right skills, getting the right technology on board. I don't want to get into all that. Then Microsoft or these cloud service providers says we have another model. We can also manage the administrative overhead for your virtual machines. You only manage your data and application. So that model is platform as a service. What happens in this model? The virtual machine on which your data is stored and your application is hosted, cloud service provider manages that virtual machine for the availability, for the maintenance, for the security and every aspect of it. You as a customer is only responsible to manage the data because that belongs to you, and the application because it also belongs to you. So that's what platform as a service model, which is also a method or a model that organizations go for when they don't want to retain the overall management scope with themselves. If you look at the example, yes, Azure provides Heroku, Google, Salesforce. These are platform as a service. Then comes software as a service model, which is the next level of it. Now, if you say that, you know what, I really don't have an application, but I have a requirement. I need a solution using which I can manage the request. I can manage the communication, or I need a solution using which I can manage my customers. I can actually manage their orders if they are putting any orders, if they need any information from me. So I need a solution which is similar to a customer relationship management tool, a CRM solution, and I really don't have built it on premises. So do I have a ready-made solution available that I can subscribe and I can start consuming it, with immediate effect? Yes. The answer to this question is yes. There are solutions which are readily available in the form of software as a service. And in this model, vendor is responsible for everything. The example is M365. Office 365 is now renamed as M365. So M365 is that answer. You need a mailing solution, M365 you subscribe, you don't need to manage anything. They will manage everything for you. You just add users. Microsoft will create mailboxes. Yes, you will get a UI, a admin portal through which you can manage how many people you want to add it to your solution, what kind of policies you want to enforce on those people. That's what you can manage. But the solution is actually being managed by Microsoft, by the provider. So you have M365, you have Salesforce Cloud, you have SAP, you have Microsoft Dynamics, which is the CRM solution. You have ITSM solutions like BMC Remedies, ServiceNow, You have monitoring solutions which are available through SaaS offering, which means you really don't need to build infrastructure, deploy the solution, configure it, and then consume it. You can directly start consuming it. They are the three most popular service delivery models which cloud service providers offers to their customers. Any question on these models? Fine. If you don't have any question, then let's move a step ahead. So we are done about CSP. CSP is Cloud Service Provider, which are Azure, AWS, GCP, IBM, Oracle, Alibaba. Then comes another terminology which is MSP. MSP stands for Managed Service Provider. These managed service providers have also come up with a couple of delivery models, couple of service delivery models on the top of these models, on the top of IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. These models are these are some of the models that I have seen existing of late. First is disaster recovery as a service. So now let's say you subscribe to Microsoft Azure and you provision a couple of virtual machines in Microsoft Azure. On those virtual machines, you're hosting your business critical applications, and you give the you give the managed services support to Wipro. You say that Wipro, you manage my infrastructure for me, and I'll pay you a certain amount for the management. Now Wipro will come back to you and say, you know what, instead of managing your services and applications, we can also help you to configure a disaster recovery for these applications. And we have a service with the name disaster recovery as a service. You can also subscribe to this service, and we will support you from the recovery perspective. We have another service which is database as a service, wherein we have expert database SMEs available with us who will help you who will help you with the database related requirements. Security as a service, we can help you with we can help you with securing your environment. So we will not only manage, run and maintain operations for you, which is to provide work on tickets, ITSM tickets. We will also manage the security for you. Integration as a service, we see that you have presence on multi-cloud. We can help you integrate the solutions across multi-cloud. Backup as a service, you don't need to worry about backup. We will manage that backup for you. So this is how these MSPs, Wipro, HCL, Infosys, Cognizant, Tech Mahindra, NEC, they've come up with these offerings. And what they are doing, other than providing managed services, which talks about run and maintain, they also propose customers these offerings, and they say that if you purchase this offering, these are the additional benefits that you get. So these terminologies have also come into existence. If you ever see these terminologies written somewhere, do not feel that they are global. They are individual. They are custom to an organization. The global service delivery models are only three, which is infrastructure as a service. In short, we call it IaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, software as a service, SaaS. So these are the three service delivery models. Now, ask this question from yourself. If you are working as a consultant for a customer who is looking forward to migrate their on-premises applications to cloud, what would you recommend to the customer, that which applications the customer should migrate to IaaS, which application should the customer migrate to PaaS, and which application the customer should migrate to SaaS or consider SaaS as an option? Harshit.
Raghu, can you repeat the question?
Okay. So the question is, you're working as a consultant for your customer. Customer comes to you and say, Harshit, we're planning to migrate some applications into cloud, but we don't know much about cloud. Since you're an expert in cloud, can you tell us out of these 100 applications that I have, which application should I migrate to cloud? And you as a consultant know that cloud has three service delivery models. So which application should go into IaaS, which application should go into PaaS, which application should go into SaaS. That's what you need to tell your customer. All right. So what will you tell your customer?
So, hi Raghu, this is not Harshit but Dilip. What I would suggest, the websites and simple applications, which doesn't need much of a infrastructure, can go into platform as a service,
Okay.
like websites and uh,
Mhm. Customer
some
facing
logins,
portals.
customer facing portals or some dashboarding. If they're looking at some reports, so
Okay,
that we
great.
can do on a platform as a service. Yeah.
Okay. Then,
Uh, suppose customers have any customer relationship management software, uh, where everything can go on the portal, uh, which is like software as a service. Like, for example, the customer, I mean the company for which we are working as a consultant, they will have total control on how many users they want to add in their portal,
mhm,
how many users they want to remove, what
mhm.
functionality they want to add, what functionality they want to remove. All that thing that will go into the software as a service part.
Okay.
And wherein whether we have some heavy applications, for example, we need database control over databases, control over web servers,
Mhm.
application servers, everything that sort of thing will go into infrastructure as a service.
Okay, great. However, tell me one thing now.
Yeah.
Tell me, if there are 100 applications, what will be your strategy? Which delivery model you will prioritize?
Should cost be the only aspect I should be looking at, or other also?
There could be n number of aspects, but generally, what is your priority? I would say, how will you start? You have 100 applications, and you already gave me the use case that anything that they need to retain control on should get into the IaaS. Anything which is customer facing portals wherein the control is not needed and there is minimum or no data changes that happens every other day, go into PaaS. Anything that they are using for ITSM functionality should go into the SaaS. That's what you have told me, and I agree to this statement. That's exactly how you should do the, you should do these. That's exactly how your strategy should be. But again, the question is, when you look at those 100 applications, what will be your strategy in terms of which service model you will prefer first, which you will look for other, next.
Yeah, see, assuming that currently we have everything in a traditional on-premises model. So
Mhm.
initially we should begin with infrastructure as a service, try to get some applications uh,
Mhm.
on the using the infrastructure as a service. And once they are successful, or once we're okay on, probably we can say the POC, then we can go ahead with the next platform as a service or software as a service. Yeah, but to begin with, at least we should start with infrastructure as a service approach.
Okay, great. All right, so it's the other way around. I would say what happens, there was a time when organizations would not understand cloud, when consultants and architects, they also had very limited knowledge about cloud, and they want to make sure that they provide the best solution to their customers. The approach was that you will follow, you will actually move majority of the infrastructure to IaaS. Then you will see if there is anything that can be moved into the PaaS, and then in the end, you will go to SaaS. And by the time you reach to SaaS, you will not find anything because you had already moved everything to IaaS and PaaS. In fact, you had moved 90% of the infrastructure or the application to the IaaS. That's how the strategy was. Now there is absolutely nothing with this strategy, but the shortcoming of this strategy was cloud provides certain benefits. You were just not able to take advantage of those benefits. That was the shortcoming of the strategy. Cloud is all about simplicity, scalability, agility, artificial learning and machine intelligence, using the most up-to-date software and platform. That's what cloud is all about. If you are migrating applications from your data center, putting them into IaaS, what difference are you making to your life? You're still managing those applications. You still need to, employ database engineers, security engineers, and all that. So the strategy has changed over a period of time. Now, the strategy is even because cloud has been there for almost 10-15 years now, customers also understand what cloud is. So when they speak to the consultants or partners, they expect partners to provide them the right information. And now the strategy has changed. It is start with SaaS. Look into the application, that inventory of the application, and identify those applications which can be converted into SaaS. For example, customer is using an Excel sheet to manage the data of their employees, or manage the data of all the customers, and all the transactions are being recorded into that Excel sheet, or some in-house software that they have created based on .NET, Java, or HTML that they are using for it. You might want to suggest them to move to a SaaS service like Microsoft Dynamics that has more capabilities. Customer is using similarly a solution through which they are managing their ITSM functions, all the requests that comes, all the changes that they make to the infrastructure. You might want them to suggest to go with BMC Remedy and Service now, the ITSM tools which are available as software as a service. Customer is using an in-house ERP solution, in-house built ERP solution. You might want to suggest the customer to go with Oracle, Hyperion, or SAP ERP solution, which is offered through software as a service. So the strategy is look for the possibility for software as a service, then whatever is left, then look for what can be moved into platform as a service, wherein customer need not worry about the management overhead. In the end, whatever is left, you will evaluate that inventory for the infrastructure as a service, and then you will still be left with some applications which cannot be moved because they have certain security requirements, or they are running on a legacy platform which cannot be moved, which cannot be supported by cloud. That's the strategy. And I'm a witness of this strategy because since I became a consultant back in 2013, and I saw that at that point in time everybody was following lift and shift, which is just copy from on premises and put it into the cloud. That strategy, which is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. By 2017, 2018, when automation automation took over, when machine learning and artificial intelligence start getting momentum, well, telemetry, UEBA start getting momentum, IoT came into existence, the game changed completely. Now customers were looking for state of the art solutions, technology solutions which can provide them with AI ML functionalities. So that's where the game entirely changed, and now the strategy is the other way around, which is SaaS followed by PaaS followed by IaaS. That's the strategy. Any question on this, guys? All right. Okay. So we talked about the service delivery models. We also talked about the managed services providers, that they have also created some custom offerings for the customers, which are database as a service, security as a service, integration as a service, backup as a service, and whatnot. But those are not global service delivery models. Let's talk about business benefits of the cloud. Now, we were talking about cloud computing, types of cloud delivery models, but what benefit does it provide to business? Who are the consumers of cloud? Individuals like us? No. As an individual, I hardly consume cloud. And if I consume cloud, then I'll consume the free services offered by cloud like Gmail, OneDrive, Dropbox. I've been doing that for a long time. In fact, my Gmail account that I created back in 2006. Why? How I remember it, it has 2006 as numeral there in the email address because I could not get an email address of my choice. So it suggested that use this number. It is available. I used it. So I've been using for last 15 years Google services and I have not even paid a single penny to them. Am I the customer for them? No. So businesses are the consumers of cloud, and what benefits cloud offers to business? Let's understand those benefits. First benefit, cost effective. So cloud provides them savings on the top of costs that they spend while they run their infrastructure on premises. Clouds provides them certain savings. Now, if you don't manage your applications, if you don't design it carefully, that cost of hosting the infrastructure in cloud can actually go higher as compared to on premises, which has also been the pain for businesses in the long run. And they had to, they had to engage consultants or service providers to actually look into the configuration and suggest them the cost optimization measures. But cost is the benefit because cloud is all about moving from capex to opex, from capital expenditure based model to operational based operation expenditure based model. So you don't pay any upfront cost in cloud. You don't need to purchase any hardware. You can pay for the services when you use it. Cloud charges you on per minute basis. If you use a service for 20 minutes, you only pay for 20 minutes. They don't charge you for 1 hour. They don't charge you for the entire day. They don't charge you for the entire month. Cloud is not a postpaid connection that I would say you will get billed at the end of the month. But even if you use the services for 2 days, you will get billed for the entire month. So that's the benefit of cloud. First, cost effective is the benefit. Second, economies of scale. Now, what this benefit is all about, when you purchase hardware as a corporate, when you purchase hardware from Dell, HP, IBM, you purchase very limited units. I mean, so you will purchase 5 servers, 10 servers, that's it. And they will send you invoice accordingly. They will have prices accordingly. When Microsoft purchases the hardware from Dell, IBM or HP, Microsoft purchases 1,000, 2,000 units of that hardware. So Microsoft gets more discounted rates, better rates. The savings that Microsoft will do as part of that transaction, Microsoft will pass on that saving to its customers who are using Microsoft Cloud. And that is where the cost of cloud services becomes cheaper as compared to on-premises. That's known as economies of scale. So that's exactly what is written here. Cloud providers can purchase hardware, storage, compute, network in bulk at a lower cost and pass on these benefits to end users in the form of lower prices than what you could achieve on your own. So cloud is all about moving from capex to opex. This slide basically differentiates what is capex, what is opex. Let's give it a quick read and let me know if you have any questions. All right, if you don't have any questions, let's move on. The other benefit of the cloud is agility. Agility is basically the ability to rapidly change the infrastructure in order to adapt to the evolving needs of the business. So agile means being flexible. So we follow the agile methodology for software development these days. We We follow the agile methodology for project management. We follow the agile methodology in cloud as well. So cloud is agile, which means it is flexible. You can start small and expand. You can terminate the relationship at any point in time. You can modify the infrastructure. You can request for more capacity as and when needed. That's the agility that cloud provides. So the example, if your service requires more capability, all of a sudden there's a peak in demand. You can scale to that demand, pay a larger bill for that month. Subsequent month, there is no demand. You can scale out and pay the regular bills that you pay all the time. That's scalability that it supports. There are two types of scalability: vertical scalability or vertical scaling, which basically means you add more capacity to an existing resource. So you have a virtual machine which is running with 10 CPU cores, 20 GB of RAM, 500 GB of storage. You can vertically scale it to 20, from 20 to, from 10 CPU cores to 20 CPU cores, from existing 20 GB RAM to 40 GB RAM, from 500 GB storage to 1000 GB storage. That's the vertical. Horizontally means instead of touching the existing resource or virtual machine, you provision another virtual machine with certain configuration and load balance the traffic. That's horizontal scaling. When the additional virtual machine is not needed, or when the traffic comes back to normal, demand comes back to normal, you decommission this new virtual machine that you had created. That's horizontal scaling. So that's the agility that cloud provides. Then come elasticity. Elasticity basically means on the fly you are adding or removing capabilities or services. That's elasticity. So that's the same example. Then comes availability. Now this is another advantage. When you are hosting your applications from on-premises data centers, you can only go that far. I'm saying you have certain limited budgets. You can have redundant, internet lines from two ISPs. You can have redundant power sources, but you can go up to certain limit. When it comes to cloud data centers, they have three sources of power at any point in time. They have electricity, they have fuel, generators which are available, which can run the data center for a month, with 100% capacity. They have wind energy, they have water energy, they have multiple sources of power. They have multiple ISPs who are providing them support, who are providing them connectivity. They're using state-of-the-art infrastructure. So the availability that they can provide to your application will always be at the higher side than you could arrange for yourself. That's the availability that cloud provides. Now, the other advantage of the cloud is it's global, which means if I specifically talk about Microsoft Azure, it has 62 regions in the world. 4 regions it has announced. When it comes to the continents, it has its presence in all the continents. It has its presence in Americas, Australia, ANZ, which is called Australia and New Zealand. It has its presence in APAC. It has its presence in Europe. So it has its presence in Africa. They have cloud service providers, or Microsoft has its presence globally. How it helps you? Since they are global, you can actually, shake hands with them, and you can also go global for your business by hosting your applications in their global data centers. That's the benefit. The other benefit is disaster recovery. Since cloud providers are using multiple data centers in one region, and they also have high speed, redundant, cables, connectivities. So they have created disaster recovery sites as well. So what you can do, you can host your workload and application in one data center, and you can configure your DR in the other data center. That's how you can do it. So they provide you with fault tolerance and disaster recovery. And the next is global. As I've said, they are located across the globe. you can go global with them. The other benefit is security. Now, since I've been working in security domain, for the last couple of years, almost 10 years now, I have so far, accumulated a lot of knowledge, or I have understood cloud data centers or security of the cloud far more better than other people who are not working in that domain. I can say with all the confidence that cloud is more secure than an on-premises deployment can be, from my experience, and which is true as well. Now, if you don't want to buy from my experience, cloud has a site. If I specifically talk about Microsoft, Microsoft has a portal with the name Azure Trust Center. You can go to that portal. It will answer every minute question related to security that comes to your mind. If you have a question, does Azure data centers comply to PCI DSS? Yes. Do they comply to SOC 1, 2, and 3? Yes. Do they comply to ISO 27001? Yes. Do they comply to HIPAA, GDPR, and whatnot? Yes, yes, yes. That's the security that cloud provides. Now, if I ask the same question to you, does your on-premises data center comply to these compliances? You cannot say yes upfront. You will go back and you will find out, and the answer will be no. You can you can have your data center ISO 27001 certified, SOC 1, 2, and 3 certified, but you cannot have it certified with all the compliances, because the certification requires a lot of preparation, a lot of consideration, a lot of modifications, a lot of budget. Then only you can be certified. And you may not require that level of certification by virtue of what business you are doing. But cloud providers are actually certified because they cannot pick and choose that in US we will only host manufacturing customers who needs to go through a different certification. We will only host financial customers or insurance customers or aviation customers or manufacturing customers or oil and gas customers, retail customers. They cannot choose. So what they do, they make sure that they comply to every minute regulation that exists on this planet from each data center, from that geography. That's the security that they provide. So these are some of the compliances, common compliances which cloud data centers comply. CJIS, CSA star certification, GDPR, EU model clauses, HIPAA, some call it HIPAA as well, ISO, SOC 1, 2, and 3, and then NIST cybersecurity framework or zero trust architecture. That's all they comply. Let me show you that website. Let me just give you the link of that website that you can refer. Here's the website. You can go through this website in your spare time, which will give you answer to every minute question that you have. You can select your geography that you are in, and then you can find how Microsoft complies to those requirements. It has all the information that you need to know. Okay, let's move on. Then comes major cloud vendors. I will not get into the detail of this because we are focusing on Azure, but I will be sharing this slide deck with you so you can read about it, what AWS is all about, what Google is all about. Let's focus on Azure once again. Now that we have talked about, so far we have not talked about anything specific to Azure. Now we will talk about things specific to Azure. Before we do that, let's understand what is shared responsibility model and how it works. So if you type shared responsibility model in cloud, just go to images and I'll know what image you need to take. Yeah, this is from Microsoft. So this is the shared responsibility model from Microsoft, this image. Now, if you look at this image carefully, here's the responsibility. So it starts with information and data, devices, mobile and PCs, accounts and identities. Actually, you always need to start from the bottom up. So physical data center, physical network, physical host. And if you look at the shared responsibility model, it says responsibility transferred to cloud provider. So in this, these three responsibilities are for the cloud providers, which means Microsoft Azure manages or is responsible for host, network, and data center. And here's the service delivery model. If you see on premises, because these are on premises data center for Azure. So Azure is managing all of it. Then comes the other, which is operating system, network, application, identity, the users and users in group. Who is managing it? Responsibility varies by service type. Depends. If it is IaaS, infrastructure as a service, then you are managing all of it because you will manage. But if it is PaaS, then you are only managing your users and your groups, that what kind of permission you want to give, your application and the controls, that who will be able to access the application. That's what you're managing. If you're using SaaS, then you're only managing the users. And so if you use M365, you will decide how many users you want to grant mailboxes to, what softwares you want to grant them, what license you want to allocate to them. So that's how you do it. Then comes the other layer, which is accounts and identities, device, mobiles, and information and data. Now these responsibility goes to the customer completely. Your information and data, devices and accounts, you will manage. So this responsibility is always retained by the customer. So that's the shared responsibility model in case of Microsoft. Similarly, you have a shared responsibility model for AWS as well. This is the AWS shared responsibility model, which says, which talks about customer who is responsible for the security in the cloud, AWS who is responsible for the security of the cloud. So if you look carefully, this is the responsibility of the AWS, which is where they are hosting the services, availability zone, locations, compute, storage, database, all the hardware is their responsibility. Above this layer, the responsibility is the customer. So the data, operating system, network, firewall, all of this is the responsibility of the customer. So that's how the responsibility is shared between the customer as well as the service provider when it comes to the public cloud solutions. So you need to remember this shared responsibility model. Okay. Now let's move on. So now that we have understood the shared responsibility model, it basically means that moving to the cloud doesn't mean that you don't need to worry about anything. You will still need to take care of certain responsibilities depending on the type of model that you pick and choose, if it is IaaS, PaaS or SaaS. Now, let's talk about Microsoft Azure. And as I said, you cannot appreciate a technology unless and until you understand the history of it. So let's understand the Microsoft Azure history. Now, AWS is the pioneer when it comes to cloud computing. Back in 2006, AWS commercially released its cloud services, and initially they had only three services: compute, network, and storage that they offered. Over a period of time from 2006 to 2021, where we are in today, they they have close to 2000 plus services that they offer to their customers. 178 services are native to AWS platform, and remainder of the services are available from marketplace, wherein third-party solutions are offered. Same is the case with Azure. Azure came into existence, or Azure commercially released their product in 2010. So let's see Azure. So 2006. Now, how AWS got started? You already know that AWS or Amazon they started business, they were selling books online. So it used to be an online bookstore when Jeff Bezos started the business, uh, which is the same story with Flipkart. As you know, today they started as an online business store, but now they are into e-commerce industry. Uh, I believe they are now acquired by Walmart. If I'm not wrong, most recently they already had some share in Walmart. Walmart already had some share in Flipkart, but now it seems that they have completely acquired Flipkart. Anyways, let's not get into the business part of it. Let's come back to Microsoft. So Amazon started as an online bookstore. While they were doing that business back in 1985, uh, virtualization came into existence. All the businesses moved to virtualization. Whenever a new technology is introduced, uh, you know, people who are into online businesses or people who are into IT businesses, they are the first takers of that technology. They first evaluate it. Financial institutions will always be the last consumers of that technology because they will first look at the sentiments of the market, they look at the overview and feedback of the technology, then they actually adapt to that technology because they have their own concerns. So so online businesses or IT services companies are the first taker of that technology. So when AWS was doing this business, online bookstore, AWS realized that we need a better and efficient platform to host our website. And we want to get away from GoDaddy method. We want to host it on our own platform. AWS created a platform and they actually migrated their website to that platform. It really worked out. They were able to resolve or address a couple of concerns, which were availability, performance, latency, and whatnot, and security also. They ran their online bookstore and other services or business segments that they forayed into in the last couple of years through that through their own software. In 2006, they realized that it's a great software, it's a great platform. Let's just let's just make this platform commercial. Let's offer this platform to the rest of the world and give them an ability to also host their solutions on this platform. So in 2006, they commercially released that Amazon platform. Microsoft has made its name or its presence by virtue of mergers and acquisitions. Microsoft is a company which right from day one either copied something or they acquired. I have not seen Microsoft created things by their own, right from scratch. They acquired things. In fact, Windows operating system is a copy from somewhere. Most of their products are either a copy or they acquired it and then they renamed it to Microsoft. Skype for Business, Microsoft Teams, they are all other softwares. So it used to be Link, it used to be before Skype, it used to be an independent organization. They acquired it, they merged it with Linked, they changed the name, made it Skype for Business. Now it is Microsoft Teams. Same is the story with most of the products. So Microsoft, analyzed that, oh, there's this product which is gaining momentum. Oh, it's from AWS, from Amazon. We should do something similar. They tried to purchase this platform from Amazon. Amazon denied, stating that we will not sell. Then they decided do to build something of their own. And that's where this project was started back in 2008 with the name Project Red Dog. 2 years later, almost 2 years later, they officially released their cloud offering with the name Windows Azure. March 25th, 2014. Now, these dates you need to remember because that's exactly what is asked in AZ 900 exam. March 25th, 2014, they renamed the offering from Windows Azure to Microsoft Azure. And by that time, Microsoft has got a lot of customers. Now, the journey was not difficult for Microsoft because Microsoft already had customers across the globe. People were using their operating systems, people were using MS Office, people were using their solutions. So it was not difficult for Microsoft to actually gain customers or bring customers for this on this platform. Microsoft invested a lot of money, Microsoft sponsored. Microsoft said, here's this platform, you migrate your infrastructure to our platform, we will run it free of cost for next 1 year. We will not charge you even a single penny. What customers needed? These kind of benefits. They migrated. So initially Microsoft does a lot of sponsorship, and I remember doing a couple of those projects wherein customer was not even paying a single penny, and Microsoft was sponsoring the entire migration and the run and maintain cost for a couple of months. Now it is not the same story, because now Microsoft charges. They still offer sponsorship, but now they charge. So they give certain discounts on the cost, but they don't do it 100% free of cost. All right, later on. So after 25th March 25th, 2014, they renamed it as Microsoft Azure, which continues to remain the same name as we know it today. What are the offerings? Microsoft provides virtual machines, single tenant virtual machines, which is metered by minute. They charge you on, they bill you on minute basis. Bare metal servers they provide, which means if you now the virtual machines, when we do subsequent, when we do some labs, you will realize that there are some limitations. I don't need those limitations. I need a choice of my own. Microsoft provides you bare metal servers, which is similar to co-location. You purchase the hardware from Microsoft, they'll install it in their data center, they'll give you access to that hardware, you build whatever you want to on the top of that hardware. They will not also limit you to use Hyper-V only. You can build you can build virtualization on the top of that hardware using VMware technologies, using Citrix technologies. However, Microsoft hypervisors, or the virtualization that Microsoft uses in Azure data centers, is based on Hyper-V. Provides you object, block, and file storage. Now, this is available to both AWS and Azure, not to Google as we speak. Uh, there has been a lot of customers who are using VMware, VMware virtualization, and VMware in fact provides a cloud services, cloud solutions. VMware provides DR solutions, which is SRM. So those customers were not really migrating to cloud, which was a pain for Azure and AWS. And that's where they came up with this offering. They said, okay, you're running VMware infrastructure in your data center. Your hardware on which that infrastructure is running is aging, is end of support. Why don't you bring this infrastructure in our data center in Azure and AWS? You continue to use VMware. We will not stop you, but use our hardware. So this offering is also available wherein you can move your entire VMware based virtualized infrastructure into Azure and AWS. So these are the offerings. Locations: US, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Australia, India, Norway, US, UAE, Switzerland, everywhere. 60 plus regions, 4 announced regions. And they have 2 dedicated data centers for Department of Defense and US federal government. Azure also have those dedicated regions for them. Strength. Now this information has been taken from Gartner website. On Gartner website, you can get this information for all the clouds, and Gartner provides in detail. I've only taken an excerpt of this information and put it into a slide deck. But on the Gartner website, you will get detailed information in terms of what has been the strength, and it also talks about weaknesses. I have not intentionally included the weaknesses of the cloud because I don't want you to give negative impression from day one when you start your journey. I want you to learn those weaknesses or observe them by your experience. So that's the reason I'm not including the weaknesses here, only the strengths. Same information in this slide. Now, Azure offers 600 plus services. AWS offers 2000 plus services. Doesn't mean that AWS has more services. No, it basically means that some services are native to the platform, which they have actually created, built, or acquired, whatever you say. And some services are offered by third-party vendors who have been who are registered with Azure through Azure Marketplace. Marketplace is like one-stop shop where you can find all the services. When we do the Azure portal walkthrough, I'll show you how to go to Marketplace and how to search for services. So Azure offers 600 plus services. Close to 200 services are native to the platform, and remainder of the services are from third-party vendors. Business benefits of Azure. Now, the business benefits of cloud that I talked about are also common to Azure. Azure has some additional benefits which may not be available with GCP and AWS. The first benefit is fast across the board. Remember those three S's: speed of deployment, speed of operation, speed of scalability. So it basically says that Azure is fastest cloud. You can quickly deploy, operate, and scale your infrastructures and application. Agility is available. So to be honest, these options are common to other cloud as well. Azure can match your global reach, which is true. Azure has its presence in 62 plus regions across the globe, and definitely you can expand your business in those regions, which is true. Let me fix it. Now, public cloud is very dynamic. I will say today, if I say 62 plus regions, most probably tomorrow they will make one region live. Then it will be 63, 64. So it's very dynamic, and that's where you should not, you should not look at the information. You cannot trust the information that you find in any document. Always validate the information by browsing to the respective cloud website. So I'll give you the link where you can find this information. Now this benefit is only available in Azure, not in the other cloud. The other clouds also have similar benefits, but they cannot provide you these, these cost savings. Why? Azure says it starts with here. Look at the image. Just give me 1 minute here. If you look at this image, as I told you, that cloud follows pay-as-you-go model, which means you will pay on the basis of usage. So let's say you have a virtual machine in cloud which is costing you $100. That's the cost that you pay on month basis. If you tell Azure, if you say, if you take reservation, reserved instance means reservation. If you promise to Azure, to Microsoft, that I will use this virtual machine for next 1 year. This virtual machine is hosting my business critical application and I cannot afford to lose this virtual machine. So as long as I'm a customer with you, I will continue to use this virtual machine. You're giving the upfront commitment on the yearly basis. So Azure provides you reservation. Azure says if you purchase reservation for 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year, there are three methods of reservation: 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year. Azure says that if you purchase the reservation, I will give you some upfront discount. Instead of charging $100, now I'm giving you some 72% cost saving, which means I will only charge you $28 from next month onward because you're giving me promise. If you break your promise, I will charge you the same rate. I will penalize you and I will charge you $100. Then there is another benefit which says, okay, you're my existing customer. You already have purchased Windows license from me. You're running Windows servers on premises and now migrating them into Azure. I will not charge you for licenses. Here you get another benefit. That's hybrid benefit. So if you already have existing investments into Microsoft products and licenses, when you move those products into Azure, Azure does not charge you again for the licensing. So you can get up to 80% cost saving, which means for the same virtual machine that you were paying $100, now you will pay $20 for that virtual machine going forward. That's the benefit which is not available in other cloud, but other clouds offers you this reservation benefit. They cannot offer you licensing benefit because they don't own the license for Microsoft products, but they can give you reservation benefits. And reservation benefits differs from one cloud to another cloud. That's what it says. Delight your CFO with flexible expenditure. People who are at this level, chief financial officer, all they care about money, budget, expenditure, revenue. That's it. If you can tell them that we can save some cost for you, they'll be happy. Okay, then comes security. When it comes to security, as I said, Azure is very secure. Azure has got a couple of services under security portfolio. These are some of the security services there. Then I also talked about that there could be some scenarios wherein you cannot move workloads into the public cloud, which are legacy applications or security and governance from the local regulatory bodies, which doesn't allow you to move. Azure has a solution for it also with the name Azure Stack. It's a hybrid cloud model, which is Azure Stack is a software that you deploy in an on-premises in your on-premises data center. It has some prerequisites, which means it has a hardware that you need to build, you need to buy. So Azure Stack has certified hardware. You buy that hardware, deploy it into your data center, deploy Azure Stack software or tool on the top of that hardware, and then move your application on that hardware. Once you move that application on that hardware from one portal, you can manage both your on-premises applications as well as Azure based applications. So it gives you single pane of glass view for both Azure based infrastructure as well as on-premises infrastructure, which is deployed in your on-premises data center. That's Azure Stack, which brings Azure to your local data center. Now, if you ask, are there takers for this service? Yes, I personally deployed Azure Stack uh, so far for 5 customers who have deployed Azure Stack because they migrated majority of their workloads to Azure, and they had to leave some of them running on premises, and then they had to manage 2 portals separately. So they got Azure Stack deployed. Now from Azure portal, they manage both the resources. That's the benefit of Azure Stack. And then the compliance, I've already given you the link for Azure Trust Center. That's where you can get all the information related to the compliance. Okay, this is the global view of Azure, Azure regions or data centers. If you look carefully, it has great presence in the entire United States, Canada. I told you that they have a separate dedicated region for US government and US Department of Defense. This is for the purpose of hosting JD contract. Then they have good presence in Europe. You can see most of the European countries are here. They have now this dotted line circle represents the announced region. They're coming up with a region in Israel, Qatar, UAE they already have. They have 3 regions in India: West, Central, South. There is no announced region in India as we speak. Southeast Asia, which is Singapore, East Asia, Hong Kong, a couple of regions in China, Japan, Korea, China North and China North too. So China they have some regions in Australia, Australia East, Australia Central, Central to Southeast. Africa, they are available. Brazil, they are available. This, I don't know. What is this? This could be, Denmark, Ireland, something, whatever. So they are available across the globe. If you look carefully, that's the global outreach that Azure provides. And they have announced reasons. If you feel that they only have one reason in the entire Brazil, they have plans. I would say when Azure announces that they are opening a region in a certain geography, a lot of considerations goes in the back end. They do an analysis of the market. They see if we will have some takers for our solution or not, and accordingly they do the announcement. And that's the reason you will see a dense popularity, dense presence here in US and UK, because here they get majority of the business. But in these regions they don't see majority of the business coming. So that's the reason they have less presence here. But people who are here, they can use these centers, and people who are here, they can use one of these data centers. For example, when Azure did not have presence in China, the businesses who operate from China, they were using Azure East Asia region, which is hosted in Hong Kong. Now Azure has its presence in China. Businesses in China, they actually migrated from East Asia, Hong Kong to China regions so that they don't have latency issues. Latency means the response time that increases when the distance increases. That's latency. So that latency is addressed now. So that's how they manage everything. Now you will not find this image on Azure website, because they have actually gone to the next level. They provide a 3D view of their reasons now. So I'll show you that. I'll share that slide with you. That's the geography. I'll just give it to you. Look here, you will get all the information that you need. So these are the geographies. Now it's a 3D tour that you can take, that you can go through later on in your spare time. And here you can get all the information. For example, you want to know how many geographies are in India. In India, we have three: Central, South, West. Central is in Pune, Chennai, Mumbai. This is the year when they opened it. Availability zone is a service. I'll talk about it later on. Compliance, yes, the compliances, they are complied. Data residency, where they are storing the data. Data is stored at rest in India, which means all the data that if you are hosting your applications in Central India, South India, and West India, where the data is getting stored in India. They're not moving it anywhere. The data continues to store in India. Disaster recovery, yes, they have disaster recovery options. Products. Now, Azure has got 600 plus services. As I said, not all services are available in all the regions. Depending on the popularity of a service or the assessment or analysis they do, they keep on introducing new services in a region. By default, when they start a region, when they announce that they will be live from a region, they will have some basic services available for sure. So if you want to see what all services are available, you can click on this and it will tell you what all products and services are available in this region. Similarly, if you want to see it for Australia, Australia East, you know, it has Australia East and other regions here. So that's how you can see. If you want to see it for Asia Pacific includes Australia, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Taiwan, and these are the regions which are there, which serves Asia Pacific. So for Asia Pacific, you have East Asia and Southeast Asia. For Australia, you have a Central, East, and Southeast. For China, you have these many regions. For India, I've already talked about. Indonesia, they have one region which is coming soon in Jakarta, which is the capital of Indonesia. Japan, they already have two regions. Korea, they have two regions. Malaysia, coming soon. New Zealand, coming soon. Taiwan, coming soon. So that's how the information. So you can find all the information that you need on this website. Geographies you've already seen. If you choose your region, I will say if you want which region you should choose, the decision is based on multiple factors. Some of the most common factors are compliance and data residency. Before you choose an Azure region, first try and understand what compliance is, and do you need to if your application requires, or the type of application that you have, if it aligns with data residency or compliance requirements. If yes, look for those. Service availability, let's say you want to choose South Africa as your region, but that service is not available, so look for the service availability. And then pricing, not all the services are at the same cost offered in all the regions. The prices are also different. So keep these factors into mind. Then there will be other factors also like performance and other factors, but these are the main factors. These are some of the customer stories, new regions that they've announced. You have already seen US, Malaysia, China, Indonesia, they're announcing. You want to contact them, here's the information. Okay. On the same website, if you feel by now, if you have felt that yes, Azure is a good platform, I am, I'm gaining interest in Azure and I want to explore Azure. You can create a free trial account on Microsoft Azure, which is available for 30 days, which gives you $200 of credit. In INR, it is equivalent to 13,300 rupees for 1 month, and you can use that credit to explore Azure services. So I will recommend you everyone to create a free trial of Microsoft Azure, which will give you $200. It requires a debit and credit card. But if you had created a free trial in the past, or if you don't hold a debit or credit card, I will give you an Azure subscription, which will also be valid for 1 month. However, the credit will only be $100. So I have a couple of Azure passes that I can share with you, which has $100 of credit. So I leave the decision to you if you want to use a free tier account by creating a trial here, or if you want to use a sponsorship subscription. The difference is in the money that you will get. Free trial $200, sponsorship $100. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? All right.
Good from that.
Great.
Good to me.
I'm sorry, somebody said something?
No, I said it's good to me. No issue.
Great. All right.
Thanks.
Let's move on. Understanding Azure data centers. So instead of giving you Gyan in terms of showing you slide deck, I'm sharing a URL with you that you need to watch right now. Mark Rusinkov, who is the CTO for Microsoft Azure. It's a 15-minute video in which in this video, Mark will talk about everything about Azure data centers, how big are those data centers, how they have configured those data centers, how they have taken care of resiliency, residency, what they are doing for power, electricity. All the information is available in this video. Please watch this video. Once you are done watching this video, then if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer. Let me share the link for the video with all of you. There are two videos, guys. The other video is a 4-minute video in which a Microsoft employee who's a senior executive is actually walking inside the data center so that you can see what all is there. You can see how clean that data center is, how many racks and hardware is there. You can see all of it. But first watch this video, then the other video. Change the exam outline. Every 6 months they change it. Why? Azure or public cloud is a dynamic platform. They introduce new services. They deprecate existing services. They make modifications to the services, and it has to reflect in the exam guideline or exam curriculum. That's the reason they change the exam curriculum every 6 months. Now AZ 900 exam is also going to be updated on October 25th, which is a month from now. So if you are preparing, if you really want to sit for AZ 900 exam, I would rather suggest you to sit after this date. Why? Because by that time they will have a new curriculum and it will be easier for you to clear that exam. Also, your certification remains valid for a longer duration. Now what they are going to change, they're going to change a couple of topics from the existing syllabus that they have. So that is mentioned here. This is the existing syllabus and this is the new syllabus, which will be effective from October 25th next month. Okay, so describe cloud concepts. They'll be talking about what cloud computing is, high availability, scalability, elasticity. Now the entire exam, all the questions that you will get in AZ 900, none of them will be based on lab because it's all theoretical exam. It basically validates your understanding of Azure services, whether you can describe those services. Describe means if somebody says what is a region, you should know theoretically what a region is. That's it. They will not ask you to have knowledge around the configuration of that service. For example, there's a service, if there's a service which says Kubernetes, then you should know what a Kubernetes is. That's it. They don't expect you to know how do you configure Kubernetes in Azure, what are the characteristics, what are the best practices. No, That's not what the exam will measure you. Exam will measure you on the understanding of various services and category. So example, it talks about high availability, scalability, elasticity, disaster recovery. We have already covered it. CapEx, OpEx, consumption based model. I talked about it's pay as you go, right? Then the responsibility model, I showed you the image. Then it's what is different types of service models, SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, we talked about it. You know, identify a service type based on a use case. So we talked about that use case, that when we have an inventory of applications, what model would be good for that. So the use case is if you want to manage everything IaaS, if you only want to manage application and data PaaS, if you don't want to manage anything, SaaS. It's pretty simple. Then comes the difference between public, private, and hybrid cloud and the comparison. So we talked about it. Then comes Azure Core Services. This is what we will be doing. Now there will be a couple of topics in the fundamentals that we will also read in Azure 104 exams. So the benefit of this training is that we will read those we will read those services or talk about those services both from theoretical as well as the practical understanding perspective, the lab understanding perspective. So we'll talk about regions, regional pairs, availability zone, resource groups today, subscription management groups, Azure Resource Manager. Then it talks about, let's say, describe the benefits and uses. That's it. Virtual machine, Azure App Services, we'll do all of it. Kubernetes is something that is not part of the part of the course, so we'll not focus much on it. But you should know that what a Kubernetes is from the theoretical perspective, which is there in the book. Then we'll do everything around virtual network, VPN gateway, peering, express route, all of it. We'll do everything around container, blob storage, all of it. We'll talk about databases as well. Then it comes the IoT services. So you should theoretically know what IoT is and what IoT services are available in Azure. That's it. Then comes management tools. So Azure Advisor, Azure Security Center, Azure Monitor, all of this we'll be talking about. We'll talk about in detail in terms of the lab also around that. Then comes Azure Active Directory. So we'll do that part also. Then it talks about cost management and service level agreements, that that what are the SLAs available. So we'll talk about SLAs as well. So that's all about AZ 900 exam. Then AZ 900 exam, the next exam is AZ 104, which covers 50% of the topics from AZ 900, and the remaining 50% of the topic is unique to AZ 104 exam. So we will make sure to cover majority of the topics, which are majority of these subjects which are part of the syllabus. And for anything that we are not able to cover, I will be providing you appropriate documentation slides so that you can go through it by yourself. And as I said, there are times in the exam you will find some 10 to 20% questions which are out of syllabus, which you will not find, which you will not find here. And you will feel that, in the exam outline that Microsoft provided, they did not mention this topic, but they are asking this question in the certification exam. Don't feel bad about it. That is the reason they put passing marks as 70%. So that's the exam outline. Now let's get back to the topic. All right. Do you have any question on Azure data centers? Now that you have seen that Azure Data Center is a large facility which is equivalent to 3 football or soccer fields, which has thousands of racks, which contains multiple servers, storage, networking. They're using all measures to make sure that these services are highly available, redundant, and they're also taking into consideration the environment, so they follow green energy concept, all that. Any question that you have after you watch that video?
Hi Raghu, it's Dilip here. So I have a question regarding the date you mentioned. So 25th October is the date after which we should take which exam? Admin exam or the fundamentals one?
No, this is for the fundamental. Admin, let's see if they are changing the admin exam. because they changed the admin exam in May this year. So I'm not too sure if they are changing it once again. Just give me 1 minute, I'll let you know.
Sure.
So this is for the admin exam. Yep. Okay, you're lucky. They only updated it yesterday. So now for next 6 months, not exactly 6 months, at least for 3 months, they are not going to make any changes.
Okay.
So they did it yesterday only.
Yeah.
Right, that's how Microsoft is all about. I would say, uh, there are back in 2003 when I used to prepare students for Microsoft CCNA exam. At that point in time, the exams were just a tool to validate your knowledge, and these companies would not make money from exam today, and those exams will remain valid as long as that technology exists. But today, these these they are they have made it as a business. They're actually earning a lot of revenue from these exams because they will make you recertify your skills every 2 years. So every 2 years, you're paying this amount to actually prove that you are certified. And every 6 months, every 3 months, they change the guideline, they change the certification outline. And there are times when you also need to recertify yourself so that you can prove that whatever changes has been there in the exam, you have that knowledge and and skills with you. So it has become a business, these days, these exams. And that is where I do not personally recommend people to recertify themselves if they have done the exam once and if they are doing good in their respective, respective career. Don't don't just go for recertification again. What are you getting in return? Nothing. What questions are asked in the exam and what you work in day-to-day administration is totally different. Exam is nothing but theoretical aspect. But the real knowledge, like they say, that's when rubber hits the road. The real knowledge you will acquire when you work in a production environment, because what is written in the book is not exactly what happens in the real environment. Things are different. You get new ideas, you get new information. I would say, you face issues which are unique, for which information is not available. And that's where you connect with Microsoft support, you connect with product group, and you find solutions to those, to those areas or to those problems. So AZ900, AZ104 was updated yesterday itself, which means for next 3 months, you should not worry about it. Typically, they change the exam outline at least, once in 6 months, but nowadays they have most frequently doing it once in 3 months. Now, if you look at the actual prerequisite for this exam, here's the prerequisite. It says the candidate for this exam should have at least 6 months of hands-on experience administrating these services and strong understanding of core services. So hands-on experience cannot be provided in a training, though I have curated this training keeping in mind what an Azure administrator does day to day as part of run and maintain. So if you're working as an Azure administrator, what kind of queries you will receive from the customer or user, what kind of areas or issues that you will be working on. Keeping that in mind, I have curated this exam content and I have kept those use cases as part of lab exercises. So that will give you a good insights into it and you primarily qualify for it. After completing this training and after making sure that you go through each and every aspect of the lab, if you appear for an interview for Azure administrator, take my words, you will clear that interview, especially if they are not looking for a superhuman. These days, in job descriptions, they need everything. They need one person to be superhuman. They need that person to know everything that exists in this world. If they are, if you're going for an interview with that requirement, I cannot guarantee. But if somebody is being honest, is being reasonable in sharing the requirement, then you will be able to clear that interview. As I said, if you know PowerShell or CLI, it's one and the same thing. But if somebody says that you need to know everything, then there is a challenge. But that's okay. Let's move on, guys. So I'll bring back the slide deck once again. So we'll move on. Now these are some of the links which is available. I have collated all of these links which gives you useful information about Azure services, various portals which are available If you want to know if there is any update on the portal, if there is any update on the services, Azure updates, Azure charts list all the Azure services. Why Azure? You already have a slide deck which exactly talks about what information is there on this website. Azure status, what is the current status of the services? Is there a downtime in any of the geography region? You get all of this information. Azure blog, some experts who have been with Azure for a long time, they share their ideas, they write white papers, all of this information you can find here. Azure regions, I already talked about, there are 62 regions as we speak, or 60 plus regions which are available. So you get all the information here. I shared this URL with you already. Azure Migration Center, on this portal you will get all the information with respect to migration. I'll also make sure to spend at least 30 to 45 minutes during this training, most probably on the 4th or 5th day, and I'll talk about how do we do migration in Azure. Azure downloads. If you are into programming, if you have been a developer and you want to develop applications for Azure, here you will find all the SDKs and good softwares. Azure partners. It will list out HCL, Wipro, and all the managed services provider who are associated with Microsoft Azure and who can actually help us, work on a specific use case, can help you do the assessment and migration, and also provide you managed services. Azure Pricing Calculator, one-stop shop if you want to find out what will be the cost of an approximate solution. You have some use case in mind, you can go to Azure Pricing Calculator, find out what will be the cost of this initiative if I deploy it in a specific region. So these are some of the good URLs which are available. I'll just copy them all and put it into the chat window so that you can explore that later on. All right. Then comes the next topic, which talks about various availability options which are there, which are available in Azure. And before you do that, as I said, region. Now first understand what a region is. So region means a geographic location in Azure. For example, East US is a region. West US is a region. It's a geographic location. Now where they have configured this information is available on the documentation on the portal that I shared the link for. You can go and find out when that region came into existence, what is the location. They will not share the exact address for sure, but you will at least know, okay, this falls in Virginia, this falls in New York, New Hampton somewhere, Austin, Texas somewhere. Okay, so that region is a geographical location. A region has one or more than one data centers. When Azure starts operations in a new region, Azure might want to start with one data center. You already seen how big Azure data centers are and what level of investments it will call for setting up a data center. So Azure may start with one data center, but over a period of time, depending on the response and the businesses who starts to, you know, put their workloads and applications in that region, Azure will build more data centers in that region. So typically, if you talk about existing regions which has been there in existence for a couple of years, they have typically 2 to 3 data centers in each region. 2 to 3 data centers. For some regions, they have more data centers. For example, regions in US, East US, which is the oldest region in Azure, it has got more than 6 data centers. So 2 to 3 data centers are common in any region, but they start with one data center. Now, how do you get availability options in Azure? And what are the SLAs that you need to understand? First of all, the SLAs are based on the availability or uptime. So it basically means that if I provision a virtual machine in Azure, and if I use it for 30 days, 30 days is equivalent to 730 hours, 24 hours into 3, 730, 740 hours, whatever comes out. Because, you know, in a month you have 30 and 35, 31 days. So it says that the total number of hours that your virtual machine was up and running, what was the percentage uptime? If that virtual machine, if because of any outage at Azure end, if that virtual machine is not available, it could be a service. I mean, it could be a network, it could be a storage service, it could be a data lake, any service. If that service is is not available, if the uptime of the service is not there as per the SLA that Azure provides, Azure will reimburse you. So it's a financially backed up SLAs, which means if they give you a guarantee of 90% of uptime, and if they say that your service will be available 90% of the time throughout the month, the uptime will be 90%. If the uptime is below 90%, Azure will credit you, will give you certain credit. So that's the financially backed up SLA that Azure provides. Now, in case of a virtual machine, because that's the core service, we build our applications, we host our applications on the top of virtual machines. So it becomes a core service for Azure. In case of virtual machines, Azure has certain SLAs. They have SLAs for all the services. I'll focus on the SLA for virtual machine. Then I will share the URL which talks about SLA for each and every Azure service that Azure has to offer. You can go through that URL web portal in detail and look for the SLAs. If you are sitting for certification exam, Microsoft will ask questions on Azure Virtual Machine SLAs because that's the most common use service. They don't expect people to remember everything on their fingertips. They expect them to understand the and basics and fundamentals, and they expect them to know where to find what information. That's what they expect. So you don't need to remember anything on your fingertips. You should just know that what keyword should I type in the Google, in the browser, to find a specific documentation or information. That's what you need to know. So let's talk about the virtual machine SLAs. So Azure says that if you build a virtual machine, and if you build that virtual machine with premium storage, I will ensure 99.9% uptime of that virtual machine. That's what Azure promises. If it is below, I will give you certain credit. That's the first option for single VM. Then there is another option, which is availability set. Uh, in a data center, if you have seen that video, you must have seen that the data center has couple of racks. In that rack, they have arranged the hardware. So your virtual machines will be hosted on those racks. Now, every rack has a power source and every rack has a hardware which has its own version. Hardware are also updated, which is known as firmware update. Now, if there is a maintenance which needs to happen, Microsoft will not bring down the entire data center at one go. It will maintain one rack after another. So it will focus on first rack. It will do a firmware upgrade for the entire rack or software refresh for the entire rack. It will do the power maintenance for that rack, and then it will move on to the next rack. So that's how Microsoft does the maintenance of their data center. Now imagine you have two virtual machines which caters to your application, and both the virtual machines are hosted on the same rack. What will happen? During the maintenance, both the virtual machines will be down and your application will be down. Microsoft will give you SLA, Microsoft will give you service credit, but is that the ultimate goal of hosting your workloads and applications in Azure platform, that you will get your money back? No, the ultimate goal is high availability, disaster recovery, fault tolerance, performance. That's the ultimate goal, and global outreach. So what Azure says, that if you have two virtual machines hosting the same role, if you have two web servers, then you should put them in an availability set. When you put them in an availability set, Azure will put them in separate rack. every rack has an update and fault domain, which is nothing but the tagging. Azure will put them away from each other so that at any point in time, one of the virtual machine will continue to remain available even if there is a scheduled maintenance from Microsoft. So this sort of arrangement will basically protect your workload from hardware failure and software refresh cycle within the rack. That's availability set. It gives you 995% of uptime, 99.95% of uptime. Then there is another arrangement. Now this sort of arrangement is protecting you from data center level failure. Sorry, this is protecting you from failure within the data center, failure at the rack level, at the hardware level. Then there is another arrangement. This arrangement says, which is known as availability zone. Now this service is not available in all the regions. If it is available in a region, I would highly recommend you to use this service because these services does not cost you anything. These are nothing but the arrangements through which Microsoft is ensuring high availability. Availability zone says that what you will do if availability zone is available. Availability zone is a collection of data center inside a region. So you will have one or more data centers inside a region. For example, this is region 1. Consider it's US region, East US. It has 3 availability zones, which means it has in one availability zone, it will have more than one data center. So 2 data centers are there. For some availability zones, it will have 3 data centers. Now what will happen when you provision your virtual machine in an availability zone? Your virtual machine will be provisioned like this. So example, your first virtual machine will be provisioned in this data center. The other virtual machine will be provisioned in this data center. The other virtual machine will be provisioned in this data center. It basically means that you will not have 2 of your virtual machines in the same data center for the same role. So if this data center goes down, if there is an outage, which is typically not possible, but just prepare for the worst scenario. If this data center goes down, the other virtual machine will continue to serve your application. These are 2 web servers. If the entire availability zone goes down, you have a third virtual machine which will continue to serve your application. So that's the another arrangement from Azure to provide you high availability. For this arrangement, as I said, there is absolutely no cost for these arrangements. It's just an arrangement. If this service is available, go for it. And this service gives you 4 times 9 SLA. 99.99% of the time, which equates to 4 hours of downtime throughout the year, which is nothing. I would say. So that's the benefit. Now, what it protects you from, this sort of arrangement is protecting you from data center level failure, where the power, fire, cooling, disruption, and flood. And these availability zone, another thing, you see them right next to each other, but no, they're actually 100 miles apart from each other. So in East US, if it is set up in Virginia, and if there are 2 availability zone, you will find one at the one end of Virginia, the other at the other end of Virginia. There is a minimum distance of 60 miles between 2 availability zones. So the impact on one availability zone may not impact the other availability zone. That's the benefit. Now, if you say, what if there is a flood, which brings the entire Virginia down? What if there is an electrical outage, or there is a hurricane, or whatever natural calamity, which brings the entire regions down? If this is the question that comes to your mind, you have the next option from Microsoft, which is disaster recovery. You can build your application in one of the regions as primary site. Then you can use another region, which is minimum 100 miles away, as your DR site, disaster recovery site, or secondary site. And that way you will have your application up and running from either primary or DR. If primary goes down, you will trigger disaster recovery and bring up your application from DR site. So these are the availability options that Azure provides you. There is a cost for setting up DR for sure. However, there is absolutely no cost for using availability sets and availability zone. You only pay the cost for the VM, not for these arrangements. This is how Azure is ensuring, or Azure is giving you multiple options to maintain high availability based on the application requirement. So these are the things. Any question on this, guys? I hope it made sense to everyone. Yes, no,
Yes.
maybe. Okay,
Yes.
great. Now let's look at the virtual machine SLAs. Okay, this is the portal. You already have this URL in the chat box. This is this is SLA, portal for Microsoft Azure. On this website or on this portal, they will provide SLA details, or they provide SLA details for all the services that they offer. They have created category. Inside that category, they have put these services. So you have AI plus machine learning, analytics, compute, containers, databases, developer tools, DevOps, identity, integration. These are the category of services. If I want to see what is my virtual machine SLA, I'll click on compute category. In the compute category, I will have all the services which are part of this, and I'll click on virtual machines. It takes me to the virtual machine SLA page, which was last updated in July, which means in the last 1 year, they have not updated their SLAs, which means it continues to remain the same. Let's look at the SLA. Here's the SLA. This is what you need to look for. I'm saying this is all GYAN, this is all information. Now this is the SLA. It says that if the monthly uptime percentage is less than 99.99%, I mean, see, if it is less than 4 times 9 but above double 9, then you are eligible for 10% of service credit, which means if you are paying $100 for your virtual machine, $10 they will reimburse. Now they don't reimburse, they will adjust it in next month billing. That's what they do. If if the uptime percentage is is above 95 but below 99, then you get 25% of the service credit. You will get $25 adjusted in the next month billing. If the monthly uptime percentage is less than 95%, then it is 100% service credit. They will charge $100 and adjust $100 in next month billing. That's the virtual machine SLA that you need to know. Similarly, for each and every service, they have an SLA. However, in order to get these SLAs, you will need to put your virtual machines according to availability sets, availability zone, or single virtual machine. So, example, if you are putting your virtual machine in an availability zone, and if availability zone gives you 4 times 9% of SLA, and you don't get that uptime in a specific month, if it is less than that, 10%, if it is less than this category, 25%, and if it is less than this, 100% service credit. Don't ever feel that you will get 100% of the service credit. It cannot happen. It has not happened in the past. No customer has ever got 100% of the service credit. Why? Because the outages that has happened at Azure data centers were only for a couple of minutes or hours. So you will not be eligible for it. Second, it's a plus point. If it has not happened in the past, it means Azure is a stable platform. You can actually think about moving your workloads to Azure because you don't get outages in Azure. So that's what the SLA is all about. I will highly recommend you to read SLA for the virtual machines at least. You know, read the entire page, go through every minute statement which is there, so that you get some good information around it. All right, moving on. I talked about availability sets. This is the arrangement through which Azure ensures the availability set. So Azure has created a fault domain, and an update domain. For update domain basically means any maintenance event which relates to firmware upgrades, security patches, all of it. And fault domain means any maintenance event related to the hardware, which is power outage and anything. When Azure is doing this update, every hardware which is kept in an Azure data center rack has a tagging with respect to update and fault domain. When you use availability set service for your virtual machines, the first virtual machine that you put will go into, let's say the first virtual machine comes here, which has fault domain as 0 for the entire rack and update domain for this hardware as 0. The second virtual machine that then you will build will go here, which has a different fault domain, different update domain. The third virtual machine that you will build will come here. Then the fourth virtual machine that you will build, because you can only have 3 fault domains, then the fourth virtual machine will be kept here or here or somewhere else, but it will not be in the same update domain, because you have up to 100 update domains, but only 3 fault domains, which basically means that your virtual machine will be kept in one of those 3 racks. But inside those racks, you have multiple hardware. It cannot happen that 2 virtual machines are provisioned on the same hardware. That way, Azure is ensuring the availability. Now, if you say, why can't I have my virtual machines on multiple racks? Because Azure has thousands of racks. If Azure does that, then it will ensure the availability, but it will bring in performance issues, latency. Because those 3 virtual machines, if one virtual machine is here at the first end of Azure data center, the other is at the rear end, which is 2 kilometers away, there will be latency. So Azure needs to maintain all the aspects, the performance as well as availability. That is the reason there are 3 fault domains, but there are multiple upload domains. And this is the combination which is ensuring high availability for your services. Any question on this slide? Okay, moving. Availability zone. As I already talked about, that availability zone service, if available in a region, please go ahead and take advantage of it. There is no extra price for it, but it gives you high availability and it protects you from data center level failure. That's availability zone is all about. Uh, this slide has definitions about what the region is, what the availability zone is. Let's give it a quick read and let me know if you have any questions on this. Right, let's move on. Now, this is how Azure portal would look like, until 2019, 2018. This is old portal. This is known as Azure Classic portal. And then Azure realized that they need to make changes to the portal UI, and they made changes. And this is how the new portal looks like. That's how Azure portal looks like. This is the portal that you will see when you sign up to Azure. Now the old portal is no more available. Azure has stopped. Initially, the old portal, you would access the old portal with this URL, which is manage.windowsazure.com. Then what Microsoft did, Microsoft released the new portal, but customers were still going to the old portal. So what Microsoft did, Microsoft enabled the redirection. Now, if anybody types manage.windowsazure.com, he or she will be redirected to the new portal, which is portal.azure.com. After some time, Azure completely discontinued this URL. Now it is portal.azure.com. If you need to if you need to, browse the Azure portal, you need to work with Azure services, you will type portal.azure.com in your respective web browser to actually log into Azure, portal. That's the URL. Just give me that. I'm back. Leave this slide for. All right, these are the management tools. Azure CLI, which is a cross-platform CLI command line, program, using which you can connect to Azure services. You can perform administrative tasks, which is to provision services, making modifications to the services. Now, since this is new technology, you cannot do everything from CLI, because CLI, CLI is a set of command, and CLIs are not available for every administrative activity that you would like to do with Microsoft Azure. PowerShell, which is another scripting language, which is pretty old. PowerShell is also available with Windows operating system. So PowerShell has a library modules. If you want to work with Microsoft Azure services using PowerShell, you need to import Azure PowerShell library in your existing PowerShell, which comes pre-installed with Windows operating system, and you can work with it. Then comes Azure Portal, which is the preferred method to communicate or to work with Azure services. Uh, on the portal, you have all the options available, and this is the most preferred method to work with Azure services. Then you have Azure Advisor. There is one tool which is missing, which is Azure Security Center. So Azure Advisor is a free service which you can consider as your friend who is sitting next to you and who is giving you good advices with respect to how you are, provisioning services in Azure, whether or not you are following security best practices. Are there opportunities to save cost? Are there opportunities to increase performance? All of that advice is Azure Advisor providing you. So these are the management tools that you have. Then comes Azure Marketplace. As I said, Microsoft Azure has not more than 170, 180 or 200 services. But they say that they have got 600 plus services. How? All the technology service providers or ISVs. For example, if I talk about security, you have Cisco, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, F5, and many providers. When it comes to networking, when it comes to monitoring, you have SolarWinds, you have Manage Engine, you have uh, SCOM monitoring tool, you have other monitoring tools as well. So all of these providers, they are also offering their services through Azure Marketplace, which means if you want to deploy a firewall solution in Azure, you have no restriction or you have no boundary that you can only use Azure firewall. If you wish, you can use a firewall solution from Cisco, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and other vendors that you have. If you have an existing investments into firewall solution from any enterprise, you can actually use the same solution in Azure and save licensing cost. So that is where Marketplace is one-stop shop where you can find all the Microsoft partners, software vendors who are offering their services, with respect to Azure. So that's the Marketplace is all about. Then comes core services of Azure platform. Now these are the core services which are primarily asked in AZ 900 as well as AZ 104 exam. 900, they will talk about the understanding of the service. 104, they'll talk about whether or not you know how to provision the services, use cases around the services, and how do you work with these services. So when it comes to compute, you have virtual machines, availability sets, scale sets, which is one core service. You have storage, which includes disk that you attach to the virtual machines, blobs where you keep object data, which is a single file, PPT document, file storage, which is similar to file servers. In your respective corporate, you have file servers where the data is hosted. You connect to the file servers and then you access the data to which you have been granted access to. It's a shared repository. It's a common repository where all the files and softwares are kept. Then comes networking. In networking, you have virtual networks, virtual private network, express route, load balancing, DNS, traffic manager, all the services from networking perspective. Then comes management, which includes monitoring using Azure Monitor, Azure Log Analytics, backup and site recovery, and automation. So these are the core services of Azure IaaS that you should be aware of. All right, just give me 1 minute. Let me see if I want to cover this. All right, let me show you Azure Pricing Calculator now. So here's the tool, Azure Pricing Calculator. Using this tool, we can evaluate what will be the approximate cost of a service. Now, the cost of the service will differ basis on certain factors. The service type that you are selecting, varieties within that service, SKUs, location, that will differ. So let's see. Let's talk about virtual machines and let's see how it costs. All right, so we are in the virtual machine. I had this, tab opened from my previous training. That's the reason it was showing me some previous calculations. Now I've removed everything and I've opened it once again. OK, virtual machines. Now, when it comes to virtual machines, let's say you want to see the price. Here you will see everything. Here's the region. You will need to select the region for the virtual machine. Let's consider East US, which is the first region, which is the most, where you have majority of the services and at an, cost optimized price. So East US, then comes the operating system. If it needs Windows or Linux, let's say you select Windows, then it says, do you need only the operating system or you need SQL Server installed with virtual machine? So I say I only need operating system, Windows in East US. Then it says standard. There are two types of tier, basic and standard. We go with standard tier. Basic tier is only available with a couple of virtual machine sizes, which nobody uses any further now. This used to be useful when in the old days when we have classic services. Then comes category. Category. So virtual machines have multiple categories. What kind of machine do you need? Compute optimized, which has more CPUs, memory optimized, which has more memory. I'll say general. Then it says series. These are the various series of the VM. Let's pick up any of the VM and let's see what the configuration is. So this is DSV3 series. This has 2 CPU cores and 8 GB of RAM. That's the configuration. Now, how many virtual machines do you need? One. Let's say we need one virtual machine. Number of hours, 730 means throughout the month. So this is the number of hours. Let's say we need one virtual machine for these parameters for 1 month. Look at the price. The price is, okay, let's put the price into USD. So that everyone understands it. Okay. So the price for this configuration in Azure is $137.24 per month. That's the price. Now, if you are going to, if you have a project that you need to, if you have some ideas, let's say you want to build some application in Azure which requires 3 virtual machines, you have sizing in mind, you can just come to pricing calculator, you can put all the information, put the number of virtual machines that you need, and it will give you the estimate. You can download this estimate and export this estimate into a CSV Excel format, and you can share it with your manager, with your stakeholders, or the billing or the finance team who will approve this cost so that you can continue with the initiative. So that's the benefit. Now let's look at the other benefits which I was talking about that will delight your CFO. This is pay as you go price, guys, which basically means that this is the typical price which is available for everyone. But if you say I need 1 year reservation, I'm ready to give you commitment that I will use it for 1 year. You will get 40% discount. So if I select 1 year, now the price is down from 137 to 108. If I say I need it for 3 years, now the price is further down from 137 to $94 only. And if I say that, you know what, I also have a Windows Server license, then the price is further down by, look at the price now. Without license, $94. You already have a license. This is the price. From $134 per month, it is now only $26 per month. That's the benefit. You must have realized what is the percentage of saving that you have, that you are going to get if you follow these. If you just purchase reservation And if you happen to have an existing license, let's say you don't have a license, even though you are getting a saving of 62%. Is it making sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
$94 you're
Yes.
paying. If you want to include some support plan, by default billing and billing support is included. If these are the support plans which gives you access to Microsoft engineers, technical engineers, and you can speak to them. Let's say you can raise 5 requests, 10 requests. So every support plan is something. So by default, billing and billing support is included. So that's the total cost, $94.10. Now, this does not include storage cost. You also need some storage on this virtual machine. So let's say you need 100 GB of storage. Let's come on the storage part. Now storage is offered in 3 options: HDD, which is hard disk drive, SSD, which is solid state drive. You already know SSD provides better performance. So if you see SSD and if you say that I need 128 GB of storage and I will need one disk. So the price is $10 approximately that will get added. Now this is your perfect price. Virtual machine with CPU and RAM with license included and a storage added to it. So a total of 128 GB of storage you are taking. That is SSD. If you feel that I don't need, this, this storage with SSD, my job will be done with typical standard storage. You go with standard storage, it will reduce the price. Now it's only not more than, it's $1.50. That's the difference. You already know that SSDs are expensive. So now let me see. This is the actual price, because earlier it was 128 GB, then it got reduced to 32. So for the same storage, now you are paying approximately $6 when you are going standard storage. When you are taking premium storage, you are paying some $9. So that's your total cost of the solution. Now this is how you can add all the solutions. Now this was for virtual machine. Let's say you're looking for Kubernetes, you're looking for analytics services. So it has all the services mentioned here. You can select a service category which will list the services, and you can get the cost of that, approximate cost of that service. That's the pricing calculator. Then comes TCO calculator for Azure. Now, what is this TCO calculator? This calculator comes handy when you are planning migration to Azure. You need to know beforehand what will be my approximate cost saving month on month, year on year, if I move my infrastructure and applications to Azure. If you don't need to know as a technical person, your management needs to know for sure. Your finance team needs to know. CFO needs to know this information. Then only he will approve this migration, he or she. So this calculator comes handy. Using this calculator, you can actually find out what will be my approximate cost of running the infrastructure in Azure. And you can actually compare it with the existing cost. If you have an existing cost data, if you connect to the finance team and ask, okay, what is the approximate cost of running the infrastructure for the entire IT landscape on monthly basis, you get that cost and you get the Azure cost here. How do I get that cost? I'll just add here. So it says enter the detail. Let's say you don't get that information, and even you need to know what will be my approximate cost. So this TCO calculator helps. You can just provide some approximate information for the workloads, that how many Windows servers do you have. You can put all of the information, that how many cores you are using, how many RAM you're using. Let's say you say that I'm using a total of 200 cores across all my servers. So you will need to put for one server how many cores are there. So you can, the typical server that I have had at least 2 CPU cores. I have physical servers as well as virtual machines. So physical servers that I have They have some 20 GB of RAM. So this is how you can put in all the information in this field, that how many servers do you have, what is the configuration, how many databases do you have, what are those databases, if they are SQL Server, MySQL, Postgre, Oracle, all of that information you can put here. With respect to storage, you can put information here. You can put your networking, that what is the approximate bandwidth that I am using in my various on-premises data centers on monthly basis. When you put in all the information, you hit next, and then it gives you the approximate cost. If you want to take into consideration other things as well, which is hardware cost, software cost, electricity cost, virtualization, all of that, you can just put everything here, right? Once you put all of this information and hit next, it gives you the cost. Final TCO, it says that with the current configuration that you have provided me, if you just move this infrastructure into Azure, over 5 years with Microsoft Azure, your estimated cost saving is going to be approximately $85,000, $867. That will be your costing. That's what it tells you. Now I have not exactly put in the information, but you can try this at home. Uh, that's how you can get the TCO, total cost of ownership in Azure, and it gives you that graph, that how you will realize that saving, that in the first year you will realize up to 20K of the saving. Then in the second year, the saving will continue to increase. So that's how you will. So this is your on-premises cost, which will continue to go up. Why? Because on-premises is running on hardware. The hardware will be obsolete. You will need to refresh hardware. You will need to purchase new hardware. So your on-premises cost will continue to go up with year on year, but your Azure cost will be down because you are not paying for the hardware, you're paying for the services. However, I'm sorry, in the first year, the savings will be less, but when you continue to go on, your savings will increase. So every year you will get some saving. In the first year, you'll get some saving $6,000, $7,000. In the next year, you will get some $15, $20, 20K or 10K. Then your savings will continue to increase. And at the end of the 5 year, your total saving will be this. So that's the benefit of, and then it gives you other parameters, that how it is calculating it, all of the parameters. So whatever information you have supplied, it has taken into consideration all of that information, and it is giving you the cost breakup also, that what will be the approximate cost breakup. So in the end, you can also download this, and you can share it with your CFOs, or if you're working as a consultant for your customer, you can download this TCO calculator information, share it with the customer, and say that these are the approximate cost that you can save over a period of time. Any question on this, guys? All right, if there is no question, we'll move on. Great. So that is all for today. That's all I wanted to cover for today's session. I have already shared a couple of documents with you. We will reconvene on Saturday next weekend. By that time, I would expect you to spend at least an hour or two if you're really serious about Microsoft Azure, about this learning. Spend at least 1 or 2 hours every day. I know you will be working also, so you may not have enough time, but at least 1 or 2 hours spend every day. Read those books. Read all the documentations that you have access to. Write down whatever comes to your mind as a question. We'll discuss it on Saturday in the first 30 minutes, and I will make sure to provide answers to all the questions. If I don't have instant answer to your question, I will keep that into the parking lot, and next day I will provide you answer to that question. This is one thing. The other thing that I would recommend you all, create an account on Microsoft Learn website today itself. So Microsoft Learn website will basically give you access to a lot of information, lots of documentations, audios, videos, recordings, and in fact labs are also available here. to actually learn Microsoft technology. This website is common for all the Microsoft technologies. When you create your account, it will ask you to choose your interest area. You will select cloud technology, then you will select Azure, and accordingly it will create a customized learning path for you. Make sure that you at least spend 15 to 20 minutes every day going through that part, going through the documents which are available, for example, Azure fundamentals. Now, this Azure fundamentals, this is a training which is, let's say, for an hour 41 minutes. Now, this is not a video for an hour and 41 minutes. It could be a video for a limited time, like for 1 minute. Then they are sharing some information, here. Then you need to click on that. So it's a module, which is a combination of theory, practical videos, audios, some discussions that people are doing, and that gives you a lot of information. So I highly recommend to all the participants who feel that they really need basic information, please create your account on Microsoft Learn website and go through the learning which is available.